Hi, Weirdos. You are listening to and hopefully watching Keep It Weird, the podcast for all things strange, unusual, abandoned, spooky, prophetic, ungodly, bizarre, and everything in between. Each episode, we sit down together from across this beautiful country and we talk about something weird.
Weird.
And this week is, of course, no exception. Join us as we travel to the deserted lands of Utah. Consider our thoughts about a possible. Not all of Utah is deserted, just the place I'm talking about. If anybody was confused. And question the ideals of religious cults, consider our thoughts about a possible rapture, and maybe question an old curse. We've really got it all for you here on Keep It Weird, and we don't want to waste another minute of your time. So let's go, sweet weirdos. My name is Lauren, and this is my beautiful, perfect, lovely producer, co-host, soulmate, Ashley.
Hello, weirdos.
Hello!
That was apparently my Mrs. Doubtfire.
Doubtfire.
My Mrs. Doubtfire greeting. Hello. Did you ever, when you were watching Mrs. Doubtfire, get really grossed out when the cream drips off of his face and into the coffee?
Yes,
and then
and
she
falls
like,
into the
tastes it?
coffee. And just the minute she takes a drink, I'm like, nope, that's terrible. It was touching your greasy, nasty face and then dripped into the coffee.
Same.
It has bothered me forever. Yep, even thinking about it now.
But to be fair, the cream on that pie did look delicious. I just don't want it after it's been
It
on your
did.
face.
No, not after the face touch, but it did. I wanted to eat the whipped cream on that pie so bad.
How was your eclipse?
Well, I'm not sure how aware you are, but LA's was the most boring eclipse of all time. If you saw my Instagram story, I put a colander up to the sun and reflected it on some white paper, and the colander holes turned into little tiny moons, which was like adorable.
Yeah.
But it was still bright as can be outside, and it was really boring. So how was yours? You actually had excitement.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, we were in 97.3% totality.
Right.
And even with that amount of totality, it still stays pretty bright out. But it did get noticeably darker. It did get cold.
That's so interesting.
And we all had our little eclipse viewing glasses, so we did when you put those on, you could really see that, like, oh, there's a tiny crescent of the sun peeking out, and that's it.
Right.
So the fact that, like, it was still as bright as it was is just incredible. I can't believe
It's wild.
I can't believe our Sky Daddy is that bright.
Man, Sky Daddy shines bright no matter how covered he is, unless
Truly.
he's totally covered.
Yeah,
and then
because
like
I've
the
seen
videos from Texas.
Wow.
Wild. Just pitch black and everybody's screaming
Pitch
like
black.
eclipse. It was so fun to watch the Texas videos because everyone was so excited, and I was like, oh, that would have been actually a cool experience.
Totally. And a lot of people yuck people's yum that really like get emotional and excited during an eclipse. But I think until you experience it yourself,
yeah, we don't get it.
You don't get it. It feels crazy. It feels like, I don't know, it feels like you're in a movie or something. Like, it doesn't feel real. Anyways,
Right.
I'm
I
drinking
agree.
whiskey.
I was going to ask what your cute little beverage was.
I asked Joe for just a little bit of whiskey, and he gave me quite a bit of whiskey, and I was like, "Whoa!"
Is
and
that
he was
a
like,
straight whiskey pour?
Just straight.
That is thick.
Yeah, listen, Mama's not gonna finish this, and if she does, it's gonna be a really crazy episode.
It was slurring at the
It was all that was left in the bottle, so he was like, "Oh, just take the rest," and I was like, "All right, well Mama's getting crazy."
I do kind of get that when there's only that much left, and it's like, well, I'm not gonna keep this tiny splash in the bottle.
So
mine is a tequila soda. We didn't have any limes, so I put lime juice in it, which helps me with the flavor, but then it doesn't look as cute. Like, it just looks like I have cloudy water. So
okay, I'm going first today, and our first segment is What If God Was One of Us? What if God was one of us? This is our segment where we discuss all things Lord in heaven, all things religion. And today I have quite a doozy for you, so buckle up. I want to talk about the rapture.
Dun, dun, dun.
We've been hearing so much about the rapture recently because the eclipse was bringing out all the crazies on the internet.
As it does. Instead of just enjoying a rare event in the sky, everyone has to read into it.
They
and
were
say
really losing it this
really
time
reaching
around. So,
Ooh.
but everyone knows when the time comes, the world is going to be ravaged in wars. There will be political and religious leaders claiming to be the answer to your problems, and there's going to be an antichrist figure who's going to gain power. There's going to be a one world government created. Famine and disease will be abundant. Earthquakes and natural disasters will increase. But one day, all of us sinners and non-believers will wake up to find that all of Christ's children will be gone, taken into heaven to be spared God's wrath upon this planet.
Lucky ducks.
The rapture. Books have been written about it. Movies and TV shows have been made about it. What was that HBO show that was so good?
Last ones.
Last guys.
The last guys. It was definitely The Last Guys. No, was it The Last Ones? Left Behind?
Leftovers. The Leftovers.
Yes, correct. Is there a show called Left Behind, though?
There's
is it different?
Cameron, not Candace Cameron. Kirk Cameron had the movie series Left Behind. And then there's also The Last of Us, which is an HBO show that Joe and I have finally started. Hey, guys, have you heard of The Last of Us? It's pretty good. Anyways.
Late to the show. That show is dark, but I like it.
It's great. So, the rapture, it was taught in my Lutheran school. It's taught in churches across the globe. It's in every comment section, on every possible post on the internet, and it is happening soon. There are signs, guys. The only problem is the rapture is not in the Bible and it's completely made up.
Oh, what? Who would have guessed it? Who would have thunk it?
Who would have fucking thunk it?
Then where in God's name?
Let me tell you.
Where? Why?
Where'd it come from?
And how?
It's a relatively new thought. Yeah. The man, his name was John Nelson Darby, who, I'm not kidding you, looks just like that creepy picture of Hugh Crane in 1999's The Haunting. I'm not joking. He's so scary.
Do you think they just used that picture?
I really think they just saw this picture of this man and was like,
make a horror movie around this
guy
space.
Is our Hugh Crane. So John Nelson Darby was a Bible teacher and one of the original members of the Plymouth Brethren.
Oh, that just sounds like a bunch of gross guys.
They were something else. It was a nonconformist Christian movement, started in 1820, and their whole deal was basically like the Bible is the only authority for church doctrine and practices. Basically, they thought it started like in Ireland, and they thought that the Church of England had gotten way too loosey-goosey for their liking. So they were like, we're starting our own thing. It was kind of like in The Witch, where the family was like too religious that the town was like, you gotta go. Like, we can't even deal with you.
We don't like your energy.
The energy is not okay. So they sort of separated and started doing their own thing. And John Nelson Darby eventually split from them, from the Plymouth Brethren, and founded the Exclusive Brethren. Because guess what? The Plymouth Brethren just were not strict enough.
Oh my gosh. He's like, let's get even more intense, please.
Listen to this. They allowed adults to be baptized. Okay? They allowed some women to hold positions of authority. And that just would not do. He was not having it. He was like, this is not my God. This is not my Bible.
How dare they?
How dare they?
Uncomfortable. No, listen, John Nelson
Darby.
I'm not into your vibe so far. I don't like it.
So far, so bad. Anyway.
So far, so bad.
This is the guy that created the rapture. And how did he come up with it, you ask? It popped into his head.
Sure. It was just like a creative idea.
Just a creative
that he
idea
had
that
one
he
day.
had.
Ooh, I want to talk to somebody about my book idea.
It was around 1830-ish, which is just about the time he separated from the Church of England to start his own thing. And, of course, started preaching his new idea about the rapture. And by 1850, it was starting to catch on, because why wouldn't it? It sounds really good for believers. Like, it's not like a
Correct,
bad
yeah.
thing. It's like, oh
Right.
shit, like we won't have to deal with the end of the world because he's just
I
going
want
to
to believe in
take
this.
us. So it caught on like wildfire. And then another event, completely separate but related to this, happened in 1909. The first edition of the Scofield Reference Bible was published. And this was the first Bible since the Geneva Bible from the 1500s to be printed with like commentary on the biblical text alongside in the margins of the book. It was like a study Bible that sort of like explained to you what these, very vague verses meant. And something else really, I mean, I think is really cool that it did is it contained like cross-referencing system that tied together related verses of scripture and allowed the reader to follow these biblical themes from one chapter of the book of the Bible to the other, which
love that.
sounds awesome. Except all the annotations were written by some fucking guy named Cyrus Ingerson Schofield. C.I. Schofield.
C.I.
Now, this guy, born in 1843, he was a Confederate soldier in the Civil War.
Throwing tomatoes, boo.
Throwing tomatoes, throwing cabbage. In 1871, he was elected to the Kansas House of Representatives and eventually the U.S. District Attorney for Kansas at only 29 years old, the youngest in the country at the time. But he was forced to resign in a cloud of scandal.
Oh, goodness. No surprise.
He may or may not have accepted bribes, stolen political contributions, forged signatures on banknotes.
It tracks.
Etc., etc. It was also during this period he abandoned his wife and 2 daughters. His wife divorced him on the grounds of desertion in 1883, but that's okay for him because that was the same year he married his second wife, Hetty. And they had a son, which is probably what he wanted all along. So good for him.
Ugh.
It was also that year that he decided he wanted to get into the ministry and was ordained. And it definitely didn't have to do with the fact that his political career was ruined due to his resignation
and the shaman scandal. But yeah, sure. He just felt the call of the Lord, I'm sure.
Felt the call of the Lord, joined the ministry, and then it was at that point he decided he wanted to freaking annotate a Bible. Like, who do you think you are? You've been a Christian for one day.
Yeah, you've been here 30 seconds. You don't have the chops.
This is the most man thing I have ever heard.
I was just about to say, like, this is just the most male, like, well, like it's hard. I'll figure it out.
I'll just do it. Cool. Joe and I, this is a quick aside. Joe and I were just having this conversation because the Losers Club, we just recorded this really great episode on Carrie. And one of the things we discussed was when the book was written, which was in, the 70s, Roe v. Wade was happening. Women were like really joining the workforce in droves in different careers that they had never had before. And we were talking about how even just one generation before us, even like our parents' generation, way more so for their moms than our moms. But it's a relatively new thing that women have to like have that same stress and anxiety of like, what am I going to be when I grow up? Yeah. What am I going to do? Because our grandmothers didn't have that. Like our
it was like, I will be a housewife, I will have children, and but
that is what I will do.
It
and
is
like,
new for our generation to think of that. Yeah.
It's not saying that like, oh, they had it was easier, but that is something that they did not have to worry about, stress about, think about, because it was all
even consider that.
laid out for them. And I was talking about that to Joe, and I was like, so when you talk about women in the workforce and being like, well, why don't you just demand a promotion? And it's like, we're fucking new at this. We don't know how to like grab the bull by the horns. Like, anytime I'm applying for new jobs or something, and Joe's like, I'm like, I don't really meet the requirements for this. And he's like, apply anyway. Like, a man would apply anyway.
Because yeah, they absolutely would. It would be like, oh, I'll just apply and like kind of make stuff up in the interview and like I'm gonna figure it out along the way. But I feel like we are still getting that confidence
I
together
have
and
none of
learning
that.
what we can ask for. Yeah. And also like I'm just terrified of everything and have anxiety, so I would never be able to do that. But it is such a man thing, and that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
We're new.
Listen, we're new at this. One day we're gonna be as cutthroat as you are, but until then, please don't hurt us anymore.
We just new baby.
Please stop hurting us.
Are we?
Anyways, this guy was Christian for one goddamn day and decided, I'm going to annotate a full Bible. The problem with his annotations is that it wasn't like a translation of the text in front of him. He put his own like stank on it. It was his own beliefs, and his own beliefs were that of dispensationalism and premillennialism, which I'm going to get into. And bada bing, bada boom, it becomes one of the best-selling Bibles in U.S. history. And it especially catches on in the evangelical community.
How did I know?
Which explains a lot. So
it really does.
Those two really big vocabulary words that I threw at you.
Yeah, please
explain. Backtrack a little bit. Dispensationalism came out of groups like John Nelson Darby's Plymouth Brethren. It's an extremely literal translation of the Bible, which is not the best way to read that book. It's full of metaphors and allegories, but it is a very literal translation. At its least problematic, they believed in things like the rapture because of literally one line in Thessalonians where there's a metaphor for all of us joining together in the sky. Not a huge deal, but dispensationalism theology also unfortunately includes the ideology of Christian Zionism. Yikes.
Well,
and I'm sure that is a word we are hearing a lot lately because of what's been happening in Palestine. Christian Zionists essentially believe that the return of the Jews to their homeland heralds the beginning of the biblically prophesied end times. So, when the state of Israel was established in 1948, Christian Zionists took this as the sign of the beginning of the end. And it not only that, it was also a prophecy come true in regards to the Schofield Bible that I mentioned. Like, they read that and they were like, oh, well, fucking, it's happening right now.
This is right. Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
We can trust in this.
Yeah. And then the other big crazy word, premillennialism, they believe Jesus will physically return to Earth, heralding in a phase of 1,000 years peace before shit hits the fan. That's that whole
right
thing. So the return of the Jews to the Holy Land will set off the rapture, and all the true believers will disappear. Then there's going to be 7 years of hell on earth. Then Jesus will return to reign for 1,000 years, and during this period, Jerusalem will serve as the capital to the entire world. None of this is in the Bible. None of it. None of it.
None of it.
None of it.
Which that's hard to wrap my head around, that none of that is in the Bible.
I mean, you could translate it that way, sure, but like no one should put
you can
that
translate it a lot of ways.
Yeah, and be like, this is it for sure.
This is what it means. Only take it this way.
Yeah, so when people are like, well, what's the big deal with that? The belief that the Jewish people are the true people of the land of Israel because they have a covenant with God to that land causes a lot of issues because Jews aren't the only people that fucking live there.
Right.
This harms Israelis, Jews, and Palestinians and essentially ensures that there will be no peace in the Middle East. It fosters fear and hatred of Muslims and non-Western Christians, as if we need any fucking more of that. Right. And It's all because of some bozos who didn't even have the internet.
Mm.
They had never
And
even
just were
seen
making shit
Nick
up.
at Night.
They hadn't even seen the Brady Bunch on Nick at
They had
Night. They
never
didn't know what was
read
going on.
Nora Roberts. These people were fucking baboons, and the world's a mess because of them.
I was gonna say, like, I feel like every issue that we are currently experiencing and have been experiencing for many years is stemming back to this bullshit.
Literally, like 200
That's
years ago,
wild.
some dudes, just two guys that made shit up. But yeah, thanks to the Schofield Bible and Darby's thoughts that popped into his head again, we now have an entire Bible belt of evangelical preachers who have essentially had almost 100 years of fear mongering, which is the best way to recruit new paying members of the church, to be fair. It's brilliant.
Yep.
There are a lot of reasons why these beliefs are dangerous. One, you can take pretty much any news headline and fit it into your apocalyptic teachings, which scares people. And scared people do crazy things.
That's why conspiracy theories work. It's like, this is the exact proof of just make people terrified, and there you go. Everybody's on your side.
Another huge problem it causes, one that impacts all of us on the planet, is that, now there are enormous swaths of the population that truly believe there is a better place that they are going and that life on this planet is only temporary for all humanity. So earthbound problems are just that, not their problem, because Earth is not the goal. The goal is a place called heaven where they're ensured to be welcomed into. So global warming, suffering, dwindling resources, those aren't seen as like actual problems, because before anything would happen to this planet, Jesus is going to return and take the chosen ones, and then life on this planet is supposed to end anyway. So that's
why
not
would
our
you worry
problem.
about these earthly things? Like, oh, I'm going to be taken away with my Lord and Savior, my Sky Daddy.
My Sky Daddy. It's
yeah, so they're
super
like, we
fucked
don't care about you guys.
up.
It is. It's so messed up. And that is why so many people don't give a shit about our planet or this country or anything.
I mean, you're essentially neglecting a world that a God made for you and letting it fall into ruin while focusing on your own personal, eternal bliss that you are convinced awaits you after you die.
Yeah. Hella selfish, y'all.
All because of an ideology that not a single person in the church had ever believed in before 200 years ago. Like, America was a country when this was made up.
That's what's really wild to me, because I feel like when you started into this story, I wasn't fully grasping like the years you had said, and I was like, oh, this is so old school. Like, didn't everybody just make stuff up back then?
No.
But it was like, oh no, like this wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
And that is so problematic and upsetting, and this is crazy to me. I don't know how I never knew this.
Well, I was taught it. Like I said, in Lutheran school, this was part of the teaching. Like, we were taught about the rapture. So it's like, it's not even in there.
In the lessons. I know, the fact that it's like, okay, come to religion class for those of us who went to our, Lutheran schools and Catholic schools. How were we taught this in religion class? And it was just because two douche canoes decided
didn't even know
that
each
they
other.
knew. They didn't even know each other, but they were just two white
Convinced
men douche canoes that were like,
they
we
were
know.
right.
We know what's up.
I also think it's really ironic that this all happened because there was a guy who decided that the Bible should be the only source to guide us in our faith, and then that same guy just made something up.
Oh my God.
Like, that same guy was like, what if this means that? I'm gonna go with that forever, for the rest of my life, and then
make sure everybody else
everyone
gets
else
on board.
does it too. This is the biggest problem with modern Christianity, because you listen to dudes and women, but like I'm saying, like mostly dudes, and their interpretation of the text. Most church-going people have no actual knowledge of church history. I wasn't taught anything about the history of the actual book of the Bible. No one taught me who wrote it, when they wrote it, when did we find it, When was it
That's what we should be
edited?
starting with.
That's like the beginning, and then you could teach me what it
Right.
says inside. But if you're, if their pastor or preacher is telling them that this is the word of God, who are they to disagree? But for the love of God and all things holy, disagree. Google.
Please
Use
disagree.
Google.
Ask some questions.
We all have
Use the
Google.
Google. I know, which again is why I'm kind of disappointed in myself for not like doing the proper research and just buying into it. But again, if we're being taught this in our schools growing up and like just being brought to church on a Sunday by our parents and being told, listen to the Bible and listen to what the priest says, it's like, of course, we're going to go along with it. We don't know
Yeah.
any other way,
I'm
but
not going to go home and
that's,
be like, I wonder if this is really in the Bible or if they just
I
told
want to
me it was in the
question
Bible.
everything.
I'm not going to
Like,
go home and read
riot.
more of the fucking Bible. I just read the
Gross,
Bible at
no, because it was
school.
a nightmare. Yeah, it was like, I hate it. I hated religion class and reading the Bible. Well,
Well,
we are going to kind of continue on a similar path as we tend to do, accidentally and kind of intentionally. But I have another segment that is going to get into some crazy views of some crazy people
yay.
with a little segment called Where in the World is Keep It Weird Going? Where in the world is Keep It Weird Going? I wish I had a cool hat like Carmen Sandiego. I need to. That needs to be a prop like our tinfoil hats that have ended up just being tinfoil nubs on the top of our heads.
Our tinfoil nubs. Where are we going? Are we going to
We're
Utah
going to
because of what you said in the opening?
deserted
The deserted lands
of Utah.
of
Nobody's
Utah,
there.
America.
No, actually, so many people live in Utah, but we are heading to the state of Utah to a little area called the Home of Truth.
Okay.
And it is in Monticello, Utah. And I looked up the pronunciation of this because I know there are many Monticellos in America, but there are also a few Monticellos.
Yeah, Illinois has a Monticello.
Correct. And so everyone was arguing in different forums of how you pronounce it, I think, depending on which part you live at. So I was just like, you know what? I'm going to go with Monticello. It feels right in my mouth. So anyway, the Home of Truth is in Monticello, Utah, and it is abandoned now in a very deserted, just like dry,
Spawn
like you're
Ranch.
just driving for miles. Yeah,
Okay.
you're just like, hello? Nothing's going on over here. But as of recently, like just the last couple months, it may actually be reopened for tours and stays. And so this is exciting news for anybody who wants to
Wow.
come here. I sure don't. But let me jump into it. So there is a strange and creepy history in this place, the Home of Truth, revolving around a woman named Mary Ogden.
Mm.
And I had never heard of her, but I want to get into her history a little bit and then talk about her move to Utah. But
Totally.
about 45 minutes south of Moab, an old ghost town right off of Highway 191, it still stands this now gated property that was once this secretive, carefully constructed compound belonging to Mary Ogden and her very radical religious commune called the Home of Truth. So she had these followers called Seekers of Truth, and they practiced anything from resurrection to fundamental doomsday prep.
Ooh.
And they worshipped in this giant rock called Church Rock. And it's like in this little outcropping turnoff to this rock climbing area in Indian Creek in the Needles district of Canyonlands National Park.
Okay, when you said Church Rock, I immediately was like, Church Rock.
Church of Rock, like School of Rock.
Or like Camp Rock or something.
Camp Rock! I can't believe Church you went Disney and I didn't. Like you see those TikToks where like, Church Rock!
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Okay, yes, that is hilarious. So you could go to Camp Church Rock.
Camp Church Rock anytime you want.
No, it was truly like they carved out a hole in
That's
a
actually
giant
dope.
rock
I'm into
that
it.
like used to be for climbing. I know
Mhm.
that's the part that I'm like, it looks super cool. Like the little area they created that was called their portal, which a lot of things are special about this group.
Am I gonna
but
join?
I'm like, this is beautiful. I know. To go to Church Rock, I'll come with you.
They've got a portal? Where does it lead?
Where does it take us? I mean, maybe it's where you walk into to be raptured. I don't know. Anyway.
Hell.
hell. Let's get into Marie Ogden's history.
Yeah.
She was a wealthy member of Newark, New Jersey's political scene. She was the president. I know. I'm like, look at this start and look to where we get. That's why I like to do that little preview.
Yeah, we talk so much shit about men, and now we have a lady that we could talk shit about. Go on.
She was the president of the New Jersey Federation of Women's Club and a philanthropist that gave generously to the welfare of the poor. So you're like, okay, Marie.
Okay, Marie.
She enjoyed life as a New Jersey socialite. She, lived this wealthy, rich lifestyle. And in 1929, her husband, Harry, sadly passed away suddenly, and her life was changed forever from this one event. Upon becoming a widow, she started to seek out spiritualism to understand the death of her late husband, Harry, which honestly, I can totally understand. And I think I would be very similar because I just, already with the death I've experienced in my life, I feel like I've gotten,
it changes
a little bit more weird. Yeah, it has changed me forever. But then losing my husband, Alex passing away, I feel like I would just be like, why do things happen? Why am I?
Birds sing songs. I don't know the
words. Wait, is that from which song is that? What the World Needs Now?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. What the World Needs Now. But
love,
my
sweet
song
love,
is
and answers to death, and
why
birds that. Why do birds? I think we can just end the question.
Why
there.
Are birds? And are birds?
Are
because
birds?
Is there proof? Birds aren't
We've
real.
talked about it on the show before. I don't know. Anyway. I'm understanding Marie in this moment. She's like, I gotta understand how the world works. What is death? What is life? What's going on? So as she's diving deeper into spiritualism, she finds the works of fascist and spiritualist William Dudley Perry. And this man had claimed that he possessed the ability to levitate and have out-of-body experiences that transported him to otherworldly places.
Cool.
And he also claimed that he had personally conversed with the Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
This doesn't sound very Christian.
Not very Christian at all. This is a little too radical. He documented these experiences in the book 7 Minutes in Eternity, The Aftermath. And Marie became fascinated by his particular brand and was like, I'm all in. I'm buying into this. Especially his theory that there will be a golden age of paradise before the end of times.
Premillennialism. Go on.
Right? I know. I'm like, it all, I was listening to you, man, we're really connected. She used Dudley's experiences and teachings to then develop her own brand of spiritualism, because not only the men can do it,
women can too.
I'm gonna make up my own shit now.
Step aside, men. Women are here to fuck shit up.
Now we're changing the episode to women power. We can do it. Marie was a strong proponent of the Aquarian gospel of Jesus Christ, the lost gospel that describes the 18 missing years of Jesus Christ's life.
Okay, I love this gospel. I have read it.
I feel like you've talked to me about this before. When did you read it?
When I read the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, and I studied what happened to his prophets essentially after he died, and they continued to have communication with Christ from the other side. Like he was sending them downloads and communicating with them. And of course that wasn't included in the Bible because that doesn't sound very Christian.
No, this isn't matching up with our ideals. Yeah. No, I knew that I was like, I swear Ashley was talking about this. It totally makes sense with the Mary Magdalene story that you brought.
So far I'm on board with this lady. Go on.
I know, right? Jesus was thought to have traveled to India and learned of Eastern traditions of religion, and her teachings contained ideas primarily based on this Aquarian gospel. So we're kind of like, okay, we'll follow you wherever you go. Particularly the concepts of reincarnation spoke to her, which I'm like, once again, yep.
Once again, we're with you so far.
With you. She does lose me a little bit here, but this is just because I'm trash. She says, giving up all worldly possessions and indulgences for a more simple life.
Oh, Lord. No, that's very Buddhist. And boy, do I love Buddhism, but I like my things.
I like my little things. I need a sound machine and my fan to fall asleep, and I like to have my technology, and I like welcome.
Yeah, I like all my stuff.
I like stuff. Anyway, but still,
You want to see the
obviously she's
$3
in the right.
sunglasses I bought?
Yes, please.
You're going to love them. Are you ready for this?
I already know I will. I feel like Marie
Very
Ogden
good.
would have worn those.
Marie Ogden and I have way too much in common right now.
I know. I feel like if she was into fashion and style and wasn't giving up those types of things for her religion, she would have worn those glasses.
If she knew that she could get these glasses for $3, she wouldn't have given up her worldly possessions.
You're right. You're right. She'd be down. She'd be down with that.
She'd be like, "What am I doing?
$3?
$3?
Okay, I can do that." So she believed in all this. She believed that these practices would aid in preparation for the coming age of Aquarius. Age of Aquarius. And she believed that you could achieve a higher state of consciousness through extreme self-deprivation. Again, this is all coming into the ideals of Buddhism. And she believed that she could possess the powers of reincarnation or rebirth of the soul. And she followed this very strictly. And then she would be able to survive the inevitable apocalypse to come if all of this could be true in her life. One of her most prominent teachings was that of a 3-stage catastrophe that would take place before the end of times and the second coming of Christ that we mentioned earlier. An age of darkness would be followed by economic destruction and other natural devastations, and finally an earthquake that would wipe out most of humanity. It would reconfigure the geography completely of planet Earth, which part of me is like, okay, the eclipse, darkness
the
for economy,
2 minutes.
Still,
economy, shitter.
The economy, it's in the shitter.
Horrible.
Like, it's probably going to get worse. And then, like, earthquakes and natural disasters are happening more and more. So, I don't know. I think
maybe she was on something.
I don't know. Just, like, hold on to your butts, everybody. Something's going on. So, that is the little background of her. And then she founded her own occult group named the School of Truth and began a spiritual journey from New Jersey. I keep forgetting that she started on the East Coast. I think it's so funny that she's like, Utah, New Jersey to the west in search of followers. And she claimed to be receiving revelations from God through her typewriter, which guided her in a crusade to spread her brand of spiritualism. So God was speaking through the typewriter and she was like, let's go.
Automatic writing.
She was doing that automatic writing.
Could have been anybody she was talking to.
I know. She said it was God, but like...
That was Captain Howdy.
Who was it? It was Captain Howdy. Fuck. Okay. Yeah. So eventually she was called upon to establish a permanent community in the Intermountain West to prepare for the end of times and the beginning of the Aquarian Age. Okay. She looked in Idaho first, but there was nowhere that fully matched the vision. New Jersey, like, that's not going to work out. No. So then she receives a letter from a friend, and the letter contains an image of virgin land in the Intermountain West that totally fits her revelation perfectly. It is the vision. So she immediately travels to Utah and was amazed to find that property in San Juan County, and that's where she settled in.
She went to Utah and she was like, this is paradise.
That paradise I've been dreaming. No shade to Utah because the mountains, like, they are gorgeous, but that is just so funny to be like, paradise? Utah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's what I think of like,
when I think of where I want to spend the rest of my days.
Utah. Oh gosh. She did say that it was church rock that really caught her eye because her visions and dreams had been of this like peculiar, very like misshapen, huge rock. And she just kept having the same vision over and over of like, I need this giant boulder to be our church. And so she happened upon this and was like, yes. So church rock was on the axis of the earth in her mind. Let me say, this is all from...
I was going to say, what is the axis of the earth?
I know. I was like, this is not real science that we're talking about here. She said it was on the axis of the earth and was therefore immune from the effects of this impending earthquake. So it was going to be their safe space. And this is where the compound could be. And she also said, this is where I'm like, listen, Marie, you can't have everything here at Church Rock. She said this would also be the location for the second coming of Christ. And I'm like, what? Like, are we sure? Like, that this little rock formation is
one
it?
thing we do know is that when Christ returns, he will be American.
And he's coming to Utah, where all the white Americans live. Well, that's not true. There's more. But I just watched Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, and
a lot of white people.
I just saw a lot of white folks.
Yeah.
Oh, also, I forgot. I did this last week when we recorded. I sent you photos so you could look at Church Rock and things.
You did. I still have them open here. Oh, yeah. This looks like every ranch that's ever ranched.
Right. But Church Rock is cool. I do like it, if you've seen that one. I think it's a cool rock.
No, the rock is the best part of the story. Long live the rock.
All we care about is Church Rock.
Church Rock.
So then Marie self-prophesied to be the reincarnation of the Virgin Mary. So again, we're losing her a little bit. Like,
Marie.
she started in a good place,
so
and then
strong.
she's like, Virgin Mary, it's me.
Listen, this is just proof that power corrupts, because she started and with such good ideas. With she was like on the right path, I feel like, with spirituality of like, I'm a Christian, but
she got drunk with power.
And then she got drunk with power, and she was like, you know what? Actually, I'm the Virgin Mary. It's like, oh no, yes. Oh, we lost her.
Know. She gets a few followers, and it's like, oh God.
Okay. Does she have a kid?
Oh God, no. I was like, I don't see it anywhere in the story. And that's good, because like, where would this kid be?
Yeah.
But also we need to talk to them. But I don't know. She also received revelation that other members of the Home of Truth were reincarnations of religious and biblical figures. So she wasn't soaking up all the power.
Right.
She was letting her followers have a sprinkle.
She was like,
did
you
know?
Can be John.
I was going to say John. Well, I guess that's the most common name ever.
You
like me too.
Can be
Matthew,
Peter.
Mark, Judas.
Got
my eye on you.
Not gonna let you out of my sight.
Like the rebel of the group,
rebel of Church Rock.
But also, she did also think somebody was Brigham Young from the Mormon.
I was gonna say, this is feeling very Mormon to me. Same part of the world.
So it's all everybody's coming out. So anyway, she's appointing other people and saying like, did you know that this is happening? Yeah, she's definitely on one. So she established a complex that consisted of an outer portal where her followers took residence in this like rock formation desert land. And then she had the inner portal where she lived and taught and held all her little seminars. Moving from the external portal to the internal portal represented a transcendence into a higher state. So once you came in, you were brought into her world. The inner portal's construction lined up perfectly to the church rock, providing a straight view to the site. Marie also purchased the local newspaper, the San Juan Record, out of Monticello, and she began to publish articles and columns detailing her beliefs and her teachings in the paper. So she was just really going for it. Yeah. And her following that started as 20 soon grew to 100. I've never said it that way. To 100. 100. I mean, you can say it that way, but it just sounded weird.
100.
Her 20 grew to 100 in 1934.
Hold on. This bitch has 100 followers. I have like 1,000 followers on Instagram. And like, that's like the least amount of followers you can have. I feel like they don't even give you an
I have
account
a very small amount
until you have
too.
1,000 followers. And this bitch had 100 and she was like, I'm the Virgin Mary. This is the confidence I need.
I know. So you were saying drunk with power. She was drunk with power when she had like 15 people following her.
Wow.
But it was like she had looked so long for a location and for literally anyone to follow her that I think once she got even to 20, she was just like, I'm amazing.
This is it.
I did it.
This was also 1930 something. So
yeah, 1934. So I do feel like 100 people in 1934 in the middle of nowhere in Utah.
In a rock.
Like we'll give it to her in a rock.
Inside a rock in Utah. Yeah, that's actually impressive. Okay.
It's actually impressive. Yeah. So followers of the School of Truth were to follow her strict rules and regulations. They had to give up all worldly possessions, money, and time to this community. They had to abstain from sex, alcohol, tobacco, and all other vices. Again, I won't.
Rough.
I won't do it. All followers maintained a vegetarian diet, except when the community garden did not produce enough food to feed them. And then end of sentence. And I couldn't find anything else on it. So I'm like, okay, they were just eating like dirt and cacti?
No,
I
they
don't
probably,
know.
they were like, well, we can run down to the market and get some beef. Like,
I'll get you
the
some turkey.
tomatoes
That's
did
all right.
not come in as we expected this year. So
Got you some deli
we
meat.
can eat
It's gonna be
meat this year.
Men were to work on the farms and mine gold, and women were to take care of the chores and other domestic duties. Surprise. She used to be like all about, females coming up in the world, and then
But
just
at the
went right
same
back to it.
time, like if I was a woman there and they were like, and some women were like, why can't we go out in the hot sun and mine gold? I'd be like, shut the fuck up.
Shut up, Karen. We're
Karen,
staying right here.
I'm gonna stay
I'm
in
just
the
gonna pretend I'm hanging
cool
clothes on the
rock.
clothesline all day.
You want me to go out in the fucking creek in 110-degree weather and
I'm
sift
gonna
for
sit right here and
gold?
fold.
Absolutely not.
No, I'm gonna fold the
I'll
clothes.
fold.
You shut your mouth. That is so true. And Marie was so strict in her rules and doctrine and all laws that she, like, basically, if she saw anybody breaking them, it was like, you have to get out of here immediately. So that could also be the only reason that she only had 100 followers, because I'm sure somebody was like, I snuck in some whiskey, or like I ate a chicken thigh, and they were out.
Yeah.
They had to get out of there.
Wow.
And I'm sure there was some hanky-panky, because come on, if you're out there for 2
And I'm sure with so few followers, she let a lot of things slide too.
Well, they might have.
Beggars can't be choosers.
On February 11th, 1935, a member of the community, Edith Payshak, died of cancer, very sadly. Instead of burying the body, Marie proclaimed that Edith had not died, but transcended into a state of purification from which restoration of spirit would occur.
It's giving Mother God.
Yeah. That is part of the reason the story stuck out to me, because we'd just been talking with our good friend Leah about Mother God, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is just like no, it's upsetting." I was like, "This kind of wraps up the story."
Did they go camping with her body for 10 days?
They didn't, but close. Under the careful supervision of Mary Ogden, community members washed the body 3 times per day in a saline solution. They also administered milk and egg enemas daily to nourish and preserve Edith's remains. I can't even get through that. Excuse me. I'm so sorry if I. Marie Ogden claimed to have received ongoing visions and messages from Edith's soul from another realm that ensured and expressed eagerness for her return to her earthly body. So she was like, if this seems gross, just keep going, because Edith is telling me that this is going down and that she's excited about it. Word of the remains eventually got out, and the sheriff paid a visit to the compound in June of 1935. The community was legally allowed to keep the corpse because by then it had been effectively mummified and did not pose a public health threat.
That's not a reason to let someone keep a corpse.
No. But I feel like he was like, my hands are tied because this is the law. And also he probably was like,
he was probably
y'all.
like, I actually have to get the fuck out of here.
I have to leave
as
immediately.
fast as
I hate
can.
all of this. Correct. So then by February 1937, then we're flash forwarding 2 years, Marie announced that Edith was about to come back to life. This is 2 years later.
2 years. They just, okay.
Had this damn corpse.
Okay.
Upon the discovery of this announcement, because she, again, put everything in the papers, she was still doing it this whole time.
I love that she was like, publish this. It's important.
I know. And like, she did not give a shit. Again, the confidence of this woman. It's like, we could all benefit from it. So she put it out there in the world, and Marie was arrested and forced to sign a death certificate for Edith Pashak in that moment. The body remained concealed, though accounts of private cremation did circle. And during those 2 years, the community had lost a large number of members as press coverage for the controversy surrounding the corpse became a national headline, and people started to be like, wait, I'm gonna
maybe
head
I don't
out.
want my name tied to this.
Yeah. The Home of Truth colony dwindled, and by 1940, there were only 9 remaining members.
Oh boy.
and Marie was arrested. But she was eventually brought back. I think that, again, there like wasn't much they could do. They were kind of just like, "Hey,
Hey,
you," and then like
stop it
stop
with the
talking about
bodies.
it. Right. Like, stop talking about it, stop doing weird shit. And then she got to go back. But Mary Ogden and 7 of her followers remained in the complex for at least 9 years that we know of for sure. So then it was even like down to 8. But in 1949, the San Juan Record newspaper sold, and Marie officially moved into a nursing home near Blanding, Utah, and died there in 1975. The other members of the Home of Truth remained in the inner portal, so they got to move on up to Marie's digs. But in 1977, the property auctioned off, and the new owners are working to restore the property to this day because so many people like stop on the side of the highway who know about
To be
it and
like,
are like
what is
looking
this
around.
rock?
What is this rock? I want to go there. But all these gates are like, no trespassing, don't come in here. And there's like no way in there. People are afraid they're going to get like shot on sight, which
Totally.
I understand because people are like that. So now the new owners are kind of like, well, there's still some good foundation here. So they might restore some of the buildings and let tours happen. Maybe a stay at some point if they can like really get a house in good shape, but I don't know who would want to. But to this day, while driving to Canyonlands and Indian Creek, you may see a sign labeled Marie's Place on an old like ranch sign. You can spot her like almost vanished and rusted out Marie's Place sign, which
God, I love she called it Marie's Place, like it was a cafe. And she was like,
right,
stop into
I know, I'm
Marie's
like,
Place.
get a latte.
You won't believe what we have in this big rock. It is a dead body. We've had it for 2 years. Come on in.
Come have a sip while you sit next to Edith.
This is Edith.
Edith the corpse. Here she is.
I
She hangs
know
around here.
she looks rough, but she is returning to her body soon. Any day now. So
correct. Oh, and that is the Home of Truth, the School of Truth in Utah.
wow. Wow. The lesson I learned in this episode is like, it is so easy to just kind of like make up your own shit and like maybe people will follow you. And it's a modern day influencer who's like, these
for sure.
powdered greens that I drink every morning, no bloating,
Mhm.
no, you know what I mean? It's just like, you could just make shit up and if you get enough people
That
to
is
hear
such
your
a good
made
way
up
to put
shit,
it. Yep.
we're
I've
in the
never thought of it that way, that
money,
they
we're in the money. Yeah.
like her buying the newspaper and trying to get, more of her word out. Like that was just the 1930s version of influencer. And she was like,
Someone's gonna
follow my
fucking read it.
ways to church rock. Yeah, 1000%.
Wow. Okay. Well,
Wow.
this was a good episode. I had a lot of fun. I love discussing religion and different religious sects and cults and beliefs. It's one of my favorite things to do.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked we kind of were all over the spectrum on this
Yeah.
one too, which kept it fascinating and wild.
Sure did. Thank you guys for listening. We hope you
Thank
had
you
a
so
good eclipse a month
much.
ago.
Right? I was thinking how late this is going to come out as we're like, how's
This
your
is gonna
eclipse?
come out in like May. Jesus Christ. Anyways,
Like, what?
our
I
new
don't know.
schedule, not gotten used to it yet. So you're gonna hear us talking
No.
about some real old shit
In the
sometimes, and
past,
I
things.
apologize. But thank you for listening. Please follow us on social media at Keep It Weirdcast, and if you would please, if you love us, give us 5 stars on iTunes and Spotify or wherever you listen. I don't care. Give us 5 stars. Give us a good review, and please consider joining our Patreon at www.patreon.com/keepitweirdpodcast. We have $1 tier, $5 tier, $10 tier, and a $50 tier. So you can donate as much or as little as you like. Let's spin the wheel.
Let's spin it, baby. Nervous about the inspiration one.
Bibliomancy.
Love it.
Be Here Now by Ram Dass, also known as the Acid Book, because he did a lot of acid. Yeah, what are we gonna ask? Let's see. We survived the eclipse, so we're good there. Is there anything culturally going on we should ask about? I'm still Like, I know that she came out and she was like, the reason I've been quiet is I have cancer. Not convinced. I'm sorry, Kate Middleton. Something weird's
It did.
happening.
It still seemed a little bizarre. I feel like it could have come out a little sooner. But then I feel horrible because I'm like, you have cancer. But like, I was like, we are monsters.
But I'm
but
still
also,
I'm a little sus.
Questions.
What should we ask
No,
the
what's
book?
going on in
This
the
is why
world?
we need you guys to send in your questions.
I know.
This is too hard for us. Send in your bibliomancy question. It can even be a personal question. We could be like, is Jane going to get the promotion she wanted? And we'll, pull a tarot card for you or do bibliomancy.
Well, and I was going to say the only thing I have for bibliomancy, if this is allowed, is I have a personal thing in life, but that feels boring because like nobody wants to hear.
But if you get something interesting in the bibliomancy and it comes true, we can prove that bibliomancy is real.
Okay, well, that's important.
That's way more important than being entertaining.
True.
Ask your question.
Okay, we have been apartment hunting, and there is a like townhouse close by in a neighborhood called West Adams. If you're in Los Angeles, you know of it. And we like so much about it, but we both just like have this weird hesitancy about it. So I'm trying to think of how to frame the question. Like everybody keeps saying, well, trust your gut, but I'm like, everything about it is perfect. So what is it? So I'm almost like, is the townhouse in West Adams harboring something that isn't good for our future?
That's actually a really good question. This could provide some guidance for you, or it could be nonsense. Tell me.
Yep.
Close your eyes and think of a page between 1 and 108.
63.
Oh, 63. This page says, you just love until you and the beloved become one. So, maybe just, hey, just stay positive.
Aww.
And then maybe you and the condo will become one.
Well,
townhouse.
This is how I'm going to interpret this so that we're not taking it as complete nonsense. Is Alex and I are kind of like in disagreement over the townhouse. So I'm wondering if this is saying like you guys have to come together or nothing will come of
Just
this.
love.
And we're fighting a lot on it, so we gotta come together.
And you and the beloved will become one. There you go.
So I'm gonna accept it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Be Here Now by Ram Dass. And thank you guys again for listening. And thank you, Lauren, for recording with me. And thank you, God, for everything else.
Thank you. Thank you, Ashley, you wonderful producer.
Have a great week. We'll see you soon.
Weirdos.
Love you. Keep it weird.